project in which the Managing Partners Forum's engaged, and really just to provide a bit of update and kind of say what we can do and what we are trying to do to support the mid-tier. The project itself, and I suppose just skipping through these quickly, very much looking at the squeezed middle, and we know that these have been particularly hard hit through the COVID crisis. They're too big to ignore when it comes to some of the challenges, and my colleague last week, part of this forum, was talking about the importance of norms and changing and thinking about what's going on in the sector. But what we're beginning to see is that there is, or has been, a wait and see game when it comes to some of the technology. But what now is there's this increased appetite. And I think we need to kind of harness, we need to leverage that and think about kind of where we're going and what the opportunities are picking up on that, to try and see that now is the time for change. We've seen unprecedented change, and talking now as a kind of a senior member of a university, we've had to go online in a way that if you'd have asked me 6 months ago, I'd have said we would never be able to do. The unprecedented pace of that change is something that certainly I think we definitely want to be able to kind of continue to leverage. For those of you that have heard about the project before, you'll be aware that we've got three aspects to it. And there's the academic insights, where we've been undertaking research funded by the industrial strategy, but with a very applied view to try and understand more about the opportunities around tech adoption and use of data to enhance the competitiveness and productivity in the professions. And that work remains ongoing. We've been working with Richard and other colleagues to really think about what that means in post-COVID terms, and how we can try and ensure that we feed those results back into the sector in a meaningful way. And two of the ways that we are doing that, and these were in the project from the beginning, but the word of the kind of the COVID period is pivot and agile, and the project's had to do that, where we've very much tried to think about how we can support firms through our work on futures and scenario planning, and also the design sprints. And just to say a couple of words about that, and an open offer to anyone on the call, we are funded by the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. We do have capacity to work with firms on an individual and one-to-one basis, where we can take our team in and help you think about some of those challenges facing future strategy development, using the scenarios that we've got, and also using the design sprints. And I think out of the work that we've been doing on the academic side and the research, translating that into outputs that I'll say a little bit more about in a moment, about how we can focus on what problems individual firms face, and perhaps what the technology challenge is there, but more importantly, what is it about the organizational and people challenges that can allow us to really maximize and benefit from looking at how we can adopt and integrate technology into the firm. And I think that's one of the key things about the project. We're not a technology driven project. We recognize that the problem is outside of that, and if there isn't the capacity and the capability to harness and leverage what technology really offers, then we're not going to be making the most of it. I suppose finally, and my last slide really is just to kind of highlight to you, and I guess this is what I wanted to say this morning about what we can do for you and where the project's at. We've now developed a series of outputs that have been created to try and support professional services firms. And with the Managing Partners Forum, there are more forthcoming that we will share information about. But we've got this book of approaches that have been developed to try and showcase the ways in which firms have gone about trying to understand and adopt tech, how they've overcome some of the challenges in becoming more competitive. A book of cases that elaborates those on a case study basis. Mentioned already the design sprints, where we were going into firms pre-COVID, working with them for a day with the exec teams or cross sections of the organization to try and address challenges and opportunities. And now we're doing these online. So we've managed to pivot that approach. We are trying to work with firms in a way that actually helps them not just through COVID, but think a little further into the future. And I guess one of the more popular and latest offerings that we've had is around these scenario workshops. So we're actively developing these at the moment. We're working with regulators, we're working with firms to get them to think about what the challenges and the opportunities are in a post-COVID world around the utilization of different forms of tech. And the challenges that they bring, many of which are not technological. And the final thing, and I appreciate I'm on screen share, so I'll come off it at this point so I can wave this at you. But if people are interested, we do have a business model innovation toolkit in a box, which is the premise of a lot of what the things we've been doing with firms when we go in with them, and how we kind of think about it. It's a series of really, in some ways, obvious but questions that are there to prompt and challenge. And these are the kind of things that, as an academic, I'm working on the professions. I'm sector agnostic, I suppose, in my biggest view, working with Small Business Britain on some of the kind of work we've been doing with micro businesses, working with the Manufacturing Made Smarter on manufacturers. But over the course of this project, we have had the opportunity to develop something bespoke for professional services firms, and would be more than happy to kind of circulate, disseminate. So if you do want to get in contact, my details are available through Richard and the forum. If you Google me, I seem to have managed to have established somewhat of a little internet presence throughout my career. So do find it, do ask. And if we can provide any support, please just reach out to us. Thanks.